I got to open up the main thing here. What's your name again?
Mine?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I got something to tell you about this over here when we get off the air.
Okay.
Oh, come back. Hey, Michael.
Hello.
Yes.
Hey, when we do the show, once you come back on the show and everything, once we're done and we say, our goodbyes and everything, stick around because I got to shut everything down and then we'll talk after the show. So once the show's over, don't leave. Okay?
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, there he goes.
The unit is self-contained with its own.
All right, Mike, you ready?
Ready.
Let's get this ball
It's a rigorous training.
rolling down the hill.
Know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sound of horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, we have a special guest here in the studio. We have the Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Dr. Micheal Steward, creator of the Steward Clog. And we'll get into the uses, the history of it, and the future of where the Steward Clog, also known as the wooden shoe, is going. All this and much, much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
Doing good. What's new? What's been going on? What's been happening with you? Anything exciting?
Just working on horses and trying to patch old trucks together and
Still patching trucks together.
Oh, always.
So speaking of patching old things and fixing things, and we, as you guys know out there, we have a beautiful gelding by the name of Diego.
Yes.
And Diego's off on training camp. He's on a training facility.
Yes. He's with the how do you say it correctly? Is it dressage, dressage?
He's
Something like
in
that,
dressage
right?
training because my wife's trying to get her bronze gold medal or something. I'm not sure what she does. I know
you can go down to the trophy shop and get one a lot cheaper.
I know. You said that a couple of weeks ago. I keep asking. They won't give it to me.
Well, you have to pay him a couple bucks,
But my wife's got all these like 8.5 by 11 sheets of lamination of all the different routines that you have to do to qualify for this bronze medal.
Right.
Now, in the process of this, Diego has had some shoe work done on him.
Who did that?
I believe you did.
Oh, yeah.
So my question is, you were out here after last week's show. You trimmed Diego and Cayenne after the show.
I trimmed Diego and Cayenne.
I'm sorry. These horses' names. Can't they just be called Tom, Dick, and Harry?
Something like that, yeah.
So we got Dominique that's out here. That's our mare.
Right.
And you do a trim on her. We've taken her shoes off.
Right.
And she's going to end up being a brood mare. She's not getting worked as hard as she normally was.
Some fitness level is being kept up, though, right?
I'm hoping you know, and some point, I think she does like the long line and
keep the blood pumping.
And so in that process, my wife asked you, we need to work on Diego's hind end to bring it up. And my wife was worried that, and your question was, well, how far do you want to go? And I'm thinking, in my mind, when I hear someone say, how far do you want to go? I'm thinking money-wise. I'm hearing that register, cha-ching, cha-ching, how far, cha-ching. Yeah, I can do that too, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. But I knew what you were saying.
I was thinking about you. I was thinking about money too, you know.
I'm sure you were. But I know what you were saying was how much of an increase of whatever you do to the horse's feet, how much did you want to do? Because whatever you do to the horse's feet is going to determine how quickly the horse will recover in order to get back into a normal training, pattern that she's used to doing 3 days a week. So what did you end up doing? Because when you were out there, I forget what day it was. My wife went out a couple days later and she rode Diego and she was like, there's nothing. He didn't do anything, or not that you didn't do anything.
Exactly so.
Well, not that you didn't do anything, but I guess what you ended up doing was not as significant as what you thought you needed to do. So
I could have gone, a little further with the mechanics on the back end, but sometimes with competition horses, you got to step your way into where you want to be because they get so you don't want to slow them down too much on training, and what I put on the back end was a little different than the time before, and then we'll alter it a little from there and alter it a little from there. And it's always a process. Sometimes with a horse that's out and out lame, I'll just go ahead and go big or go home. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And because of what's going on with him, we're only shoeing him on the back end. He's an uphill horse. Because of what we did on the DP X-rays on the front end, just kind of played with the trim a little bit because of some joint spacing. And she shouldn't have really noticed much of anything.
She didn't. That's what she said. She brought him out and watched him walk and listened to him walk down the aisleway.
Here's the deal, too. What is the fitness level of a horse? If you got a horse that somebody's trying to work that's not that fit, they'll notice it a lot more. If you got a horse that's starting to come through and pick up some muscle, it's not that big a deal. But people do panic over it. But even with your upper level, like I work on a fair amount of upper level event horses, if it's minor tweaks, hey, they rock and roll and keep going. And if you don't do some of it, you're constantly adjusting. And if you don't do some of these, you start losing performance and losing ground on them. But people panic about, oh my God, it's different. Oh my God, it's different. It's different every time I pick up a foot.
So I guess what I'm saying is my wife was appreciative of what you did, worked, to get him a little bit more ahead of the game. And it wasn't so significant to where that he was sore and it didn't affect her process of learning or doing her training for dressage to earn this medal.
Right.
So I say thank you. I only heard one register go off when she came back. Okay, good, we're good there.
Well, if you want bigger bills, we can work with that.
No, everything's fine. Everything's fine right where it's at. So she appreciates you, and I appreciate you as well. All right, guys, stick around. We are going to appreciate this gentleman who's going to come on the air and talk about the Steward Clog, also known as the wooden shoe, creator, inventor, and just a mastermind behind these wooden clogs that have come out. And we're going to talk to Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Dr. Micheal Steward. So stick around for him. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Let's bring him on.
We got him.
Okay, give him a sec. I think his internet's a little slow.
Well, it kind of goes with, internet's a lot like people, right?
It is.
That's why mine doesn't work.
Give me one sec while I trim you. I think that looks good.
That looks good. He looks good.
Everyone looks good. Mm-hmm. Oh, I got to turn him up. All right, and I'll say now we can hear you. I had you.
Leave him like that, and we'll pretend like he's talking to us.
Right, Michael, can you hear me? Okay.
He's a little frozen at the moment.
He's frozen. Are you messing with us, Mike?
He can variously be.
Okay. Because I'm like, oh God, here we go, I'm panicking.
He's not the kind of fellow that would just screw with you for fun.
Yeah, and
you can tell it.
you think that I'm just sitting behind the microphone looking pretty, but I've got all this equipment right here. I'm trying to okay, where's he at? I can't find him. Boom, 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 boom. Thanks. That's what I need. First thing in the morning.
You need to get your heart rate up just a bit.
Probably, yeah. Funny guy over there. Mm-hmm. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, if you have a question for Mike Stine, go over to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contact us. Ask Mike Stine a question, and he'll get back to you as soon as possible. Make sure you put a return address in there as well, and he will send you out a prize pack as well. And over to my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing all right. And here in the studio, a special guest, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Micheal Steward, creator of the Steward Clog. Michael, how are you?
Good. I'm real good.
You look
better
good.
Than I ought to be, even though my wife's not awake. My wife's not awake, and she hasn't told me how I am yet, so I don't know for sure.
So where are you located right now?
Right in my big living room.
Well, I understand.
In the middle of Oklahoma.
Okay.
Right around Shawnee, Oklahoma.
So if I type in
a chair, I'm in a chair.
So if I type in the computer, Micheal Steward, middle living room, middle of Oklahoma, I'll find your address.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So Michael, we appreciate you joining us here on the show this week. And
My pleasure.
You are a very, very special person because you created the Steward Clog. Now tell us what that is and how that came to be.
Well, that's not a true statement. I didn't create anything. I just screwed a piece of plywood on the bottom of a desperately ill horse And 3 months later, she came back with the design and everything. And I just dumb enough to listen to the horse. And that's it. The design of the Steward Clog was actually designed by a horse.
And
mimic it, if you will.
Because the horse wore it down in a certain position, or how did the horse help you design that?
Well, she wore it to the position that we mimic nowadays in the clog, if you will. I've got a clog right here. It's actually a 2-layer clog with the plywood here, and then the EVA, ethylene vinyl acetate, the same material Crocs are made out of. And this is the basic design that she gave me. Well, in fact, there's a shoe in Magner's Classic Encyclopedia of the Horse that was published in 1887, and guess what? Same exact design, and it was the only shoe they recommended for Laminitic horse. And we as an industry lost this wonderful shoe for 100 years or so, and then a horse had to bring it back to us. And then I just introduced it to the world.
And don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video. So make sure you go over to YouTube as well. Search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine, and you can see all the different shenanigans and the visuals that we have here in the studio, along with Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Micheal Steward, creator of the, well, not creator, co-creator now.
Recreator
of the Steward Clog.
Smart enough to watch a horse.
Right. Exactly.
Let them do their job.
Well, in fact, the story behind it was, for a number of years, I went to Rick Redden at the AAEP convention, and Dr. Redden's pretty famous for Laminitic horses, and he had his ultimates, and I kept telling him, man, you need to modify those ultimates to look like what this horse designed for me. And so now, if you'll look at the modified ultimate, it's mimicking that. And Rick finally told me to shut up and write a paper, and he put me on the 2002 Bluegrass Laminitis Symposium, and that's where I was introduced to Gene Ovanek. He actually, I saw him in a deal, and he added or taught me to add the sole impression material to the bottom of the shoe, or the foot and top of the shoe, and actually enhance the ability of the shoe to perform. And then Gene was the guy that come up with the marketing ploy, if you will, for the clog. He wanted to call it a clog, and said it was, people would remember that. And sure enough, instead of the wooden shoe, it's known as the clog mostly throughout the world. There's one camp that likes to call it the wooden shoe, just for obvious reasons. They don't like using the Steward Clog name because they can't claim it as their own. But anyway, I was on the program at the 2003 AAEP program. Dr. Larry Bramlage saw a write-up in the American Farrier's Journal magazine and decided that the shoe was worth putting on. And he wrote me a letter and said, if you'll resubmit your paper, we'll get you on the program. And sure enough, he did. And then in 2007, Dr. O'Grady and Dr. Parks joined me on a paper on the 3 manifestations of the wooden shoe and how to treat chronic laminitis with that. And that's, taken off. And Dr. O'Grady's been around the world several times presenting the wooden shoe, if you will.
Now, why did you opt for a piece of plywood rather than like slapping plastic or finding some other material that you had laying around? Because I'm assuming, you've got this horse's foot and you're like going, well, doggone it, I'm just going to slap this piece of plywood on there. I need to put something on the bottom of this horse's foot. Was that just like within reach and it was just happenstance that you put plywood on there, or was there an actual reason, or were you just doing it saying, I just need to throw something on this horse? And, how long did it take for that horse to create the natural orientation of what the clog looks like now?
Well, the horse had their coffin bone coming out the bottom of the foot. It was prolapsing out. And she's desperate for, you couldn't even look at it without her being in severe pain. And I thought the mare was going to die. She was like a 3-year-old young horse that they were trying to use on barrels. And just out of desperation, there was some plywood laying there. And I actually had a carpenter friend of mine said, let's put that plywood on there and put it on with screws. And I go, okay, we'll do that. And so we did. And we sent the horse home thinking it would die for sure, or we'd have to come back. And by the way, the reason I used junk plywood, if you will. And what we had available was, my total bill was $5 on that horse. There's a girl I'd gone to school with, and she didn't have any money. And so $5 was the bill. And like I say, 3 months later, she came back for a Coggins test on the horse. And I said, what happened to that skinny, desperately ill horse there that was about to die? She said, oh, this is her right here. And oh my God, she gained 300 pounds. What happened to those shoes? She says she still got them on. So I looked at the bottom of her feet, and lo and behold, there was that design. And here we are.
She just wore it where she needed it.
The clog is being used probably on 10,000 or more horses throughout the world today. It's probably the #1 shoe used for laminitis in the world as we speak.
Well, we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, we're actually going to talk about all the different uses and where having this shoe would be beneficial for horse owners out there. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Michael, you okay?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm not.
What's wrong, Mike? What's wrong?
Nothing. I got a problem.
Potty break.
Mike, you've always got problems.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video as well. Make sure you like and subscribe to Mike over on YouTube. Search Equine Dynamics.
Mike and Mike.
I got Mike and Mike. Mike Stine over on YouTube. Search for him. Mike, you screwed me up there.
Thank you.
Got me all twisted. Search for Mike Stine over on YouTube by searching Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And over to my far inside is that gentleman, Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. And we got Dr. Steward.
Dr. Micheal Steward.
Micheal Steward. Yes.
Co-creator, along with a little skinny horse that helped him create this shoe. Now, the Steward Clog. Michael, how are you, by the way?
Good.
I
think my wife hadn't told me for sure.
she's still snoozing while you're doing this interview with us, and we appreciate you. So the Steward Clog. Now, is it a patented thing? Now, I know you had Doc Redding ask you to write a paper on it, ask you to redesign a whole bunch of things. Is this a patented item?
Well, EDSS, I didn't want to patent it because this was my gift to the horse. But Gene Overneck said, can I patent it? And I said, do whatever you want to, but I don't have time, and like I say, this was going to be my gift to the horse because I didn't want to go around defending my patent, if you will, and have to fight with everybody. This was too good of an idea. It needed to get out there and get in the hands of people like Mike Stine and guys like that could help alleviate the pain and suffering in these cases. And in fact, he applied for the patent, but it would be out by now. Had it been accepted. He dropped the patent so that I think they could patent other shoes that the patent would infringe upon.
Now, have you trademarked the name Steward Clog?
No, I'm technologically and whatever monetarily challenged, so no.
I understand. Well, with your shoe, you said it's been out there on tens of thousands of horses now. So that's the reason why I ask. I mean, when someone says I need to put a wooden shoe on, I think about the old days when the steers were plowing through fields and stuff, and they had those big old wooden flip-flops on their feet as they were plowing through fields and stuff. But your shoe is a little bit different. If you got it there in front of you, hold it up in front of the camera one more time so our viewers can see that. Now, the way I'm going to describe it, it looks like it's a small drum pad. Like if you were to do like a practice drum, you know what I'm talking about? It's probably about, 8 inches, 10 inches in diameter. And what is that bottom?
It's the same size as a foot. It just fits on the bottom of a foot.
And what is
like this?
What is the black part of that product there? What is that made out of again?
This is ethylene vinyl acetate. It's the same product that Crocs are made out of.
Now
it's actually little air bubbles.
Now,
very lightweight.
How do you actually get the two to adhere to each other?
Well, we glue them together. Yeah, process. It's a little bit tricky, but it's not too bad of a deal.
Now,
here's a worn shoe, by the way. This has been attached and it has the impression material that we use to pump blood with and pump the lymphatic system. But this shoe's been worn for probably 60 days on a horse, and you see it's made itself a wedge pattern. and it's held on. We use a couple of screws to put the position of the foot, and then these are just screws sitting out the back, so we can actually wrap this with a cast and lock it on.
Now, is this shoe designed to go on a working horse, or is this strictly for healing purposes or, recovery purposes?
Well, typically I recommend, recovery, or rehabilitation. And nowadays, I just got back from England and Germany, and we put a set of on for demonstration purposes, and they went on into the German National Equitation Championship, and the horse actually won it, I think, according to the translation I can get out of the deal. But I recommended not to, because it was jumping 1 point, whatever it is, 3 meters or whatever the number is, and they were working cattle and doing dressage and 2 or 3 other disciplines on this horse. And I recommended don't do it because of the shoe height. Anytime you add shoe height to a horse, you increase the moment arm forces to the collateral ligaments, and that's typically not a good thing. But in fact, this horse's improvement in his soundness was so dramatic that the Spanish rider trainers and stuff said, no, he'll be fine, which he was, apparently.
Now, with all the running and jumping and sliding and gliding and stuff with those shoes on during those competitions, did you see anything as far as that adhesion? Because that's what I worry about. I mean, glue is only so strong. I mean, granted, outside of like NASA glue that they have out there, I worry about those things coming apart. Now, downstairs, I've got a $100 pair of Nike shoes with a sole that's been glued on the bottom of my, onto the leather. And I know within 6 months, the back part of the front part of my toe, that rubber or whatever, the sole is coming off. And that's Nike with glue. Now, granted, you can say what you want about Nike and where they're made and all that stuff, but even still, they glue those things on and they still come off. With those horses being in the competitions, did you see anything like that? Any results of the two splitting?
We've had thousands of them and applied, and I did have a problem this winter with people that were trying to manufacture the shoes for me, and they tried gluing them when it was like 30 below zero.
Oh God!
And the glue didn't adhere. Which if they'd have called me, I'd said, "Don't try that. That won't work." And sure enough, the shoes come apart. But just the EVA come off the bottom, about half of it. It wasn't a big deal, but it was kind of silly, to try gluing.
Well, 30 below zero, I wouldn't have worked either.
I don't think anything would work. Anything works below 30 degrees. The reason why I ask about the glue one more time, Mike, who was the gentleman that we talked about with the red and black shoes? And he was having problems with adhesion on his soles of his shoes.
Ian.
And I don't know if you've heard of the red and black shoe before, Dr. Steward?
Probably have, but how my old brain is.
I know that I got.
If you got to remember something, you got to delete something out of your old brain.
It doesn't want to hold it. Yeah, I understand that.
I think I got him in my phone as McCaffrey, but I think I'm saying the last name wrong.
So
which I usually call everybody's name wrong. So there you go.
He still can't get my name right. I've been doing the show with him for almost 2 years now.
Look how many mics we got on this program.
I know. Right. I feel out of place. Now, Doctor,
you got 3 mics and then 2 mics.
Yeah, there you go.
Mics in front of mics. So where do you see, Dr. Steward, where do you see your shoes being used the most as far as you talked about, you initially came up with the idea because of the coffin bone was sticking out through the bottom of this mare's foot. Where do you normally see people using this type of stuff? Is it with laminitic horses? Is it with any type of distortion to the foot? And can it be used to correct certain ailments as far as what's the one thing that I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways,
like navicular?
Yes. Where do you normally see this shoe being used? Right.
Mike and I talked about this at Saratoga Springs when we were up there at the NEAP meeting.
Yeah, I got to get the letters in the right order.
Yeah. But in fact, what I've learned from these cases, and typically I worked on horses that 3 other vets had said put to sleep. And I learned that, you learn a lot from the critical cases. The The easy cases, the not so critical cases, you don't learn as much from them because you can make a mistake and the horse still lives. But on a critical case, you make a mistake, the horse dies. So what I did learn, I think, is how important the hemodynamic system or the blood system in the foot is. And the blood system in the foot is responsible for attenuating or ameliorating the high frequencies of impact and the impact itself. When the foot hits the ground at 75 miles an hour and the horse is only going 38, I understand, but the foot's traveling faster than the horse, impacts the ground, and there's horrendous amount of force inside the foot created. And typically, the high frequencies of impact do the most damage. And that's, if you're a farrier, you understand that, in that the high frequencies of impact will be the ringing of your anvil. That's the part that does the most damage. And in fact, the part of the foot that attenuates or ameliorates that is the lamina, where the Velcro attachment of the bone to the hoof wall. And in that, what this shoe does, by the use of the sole impression material and heel landing and a combination of things, we're taking advantage of that water-filled balloon, which is actually just the blood system within that little lamina and other parts of the foot, but particularly within the lamina. And the structure of the foot's such that it expands a little bit and does some distortions as the foot loads to take care of all those forces. And, you know, let's say you have 15,000 pounds of pressure coming into that foot. You know, it's a real fast impact and it can tear up anything. But in fact, whenever the foot handles it properly, the pressure goes to zero, and it even goes into a negative number because of the conformation of the foot. And that is what we key on, and we take advantage of that to do and treat navicular, heel pain, a lot of conditions of the foot. When you manipulate and enhance those biohydraulics, is what I call it, the lymphatic and the hemodynamic system, then you can do a lot to enhance the healing of a foot. And a lot of people, especially the researchers, they don't really think the lymphatic system has too much to do with the foot. But in fact, I would argue that, and Dr. Pollack just showed at the meeting that we went to, that whenever they immobilized the hoof wall and the bone and the lamina were just sitting there with the inability to move the animal or the lamina, or the suspensory lamellar apparatus, the lamina, the basal cells of the lamina actually committed suicide or apoptosis or programmed cell death and died. And I would argue it's because the cells were sitting in their own waste, their own manure, if you will, and just absolutely died because of that. And the hemodynamic system of the foot is dependent, and the lamina are dependent upon movement. They have to have movement, and especially the lymphatic system. It does not function without movement, period.
Now,
and so that's where we take advantage of that to manipulate that and enhance that and enhance the healing.
Now, looking at that foot, hold up the one foot you had there, the one shoe that you had there. Now, that is substantially thick. I mean, it's, what is that? No, the other one that you had. The new one. The new one, sorry. Should be more specific. Now, that one right there, to me on camera, that looks like it's about 2.5 inches thick.
Not quite that thick.
No?
No,
not that thick.
It's 1.5 at the most.
Now, when you use that shoe, I'm assuming, do you have to use that on all 4 feet? Because I can't see that going on. Let's say you got a problem on the front right hoof, you know, that going on the one hoof, and then you've got to fix all the other shoes on the horse if the other hoofs have shoes on it. Or is it, you know, 2 in the front, maybe 2 in the back, or they have to work in pairs? How do they normally work? Is it 1 foot, one shoe, or is it pairs, or is it all 4?
You need pair. You don't typically put on one shoe, and you shouldn't unless you want to just load that one side. But here's the typical shoe. This shoe went on and become this almost immediately. And this is, you know, impression material. This is the thickness of the shoe right here. Look.
I see. Yeah,
went from
I
this
see.
to this. It plastically deforms. In other words, this shoe will elastically do things, but it plastically deforms when you overload a certain area. And that's where the horse has the ability to immediately modify this shoe to their biomechanical needs. End of story.
Now, Mike, do you have?
This will not.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go. You finish.
Well, it won't return. It won't return elastically come back. Now, this portion of the foot shoe back here, you see that it's got a 7 or 8 or 9, 10 degree wedge to the overall shoe.
Right.
This will remain elastically doing its thing, and then roll over. It'll hit and do. But these bubbles up here, these air bubbles, have been collapsed because of the overload, which is exactly what we like. And it's real important you use the right ethylene vinyl acetate material, because it's all different. And we've tried using the same material with a different design, and it just fails us.
Mike, do you have any horses in your stables, in your routes and stuff, that could benefit from this shoe?
Oh yeah, always. And I have used different forms of clogs myself plenty of times.
Now, Dr. Steward, how often would you have to change these shoes out once they were applied to the horse? Now, you said that the new one that you had in your hand and the other one, it happened immediately, but I'm looking at that other one. It looks like you dug that up on a World War II site or something.
Well, it's been used for a month, maybe even 2 months. You know, this shoe's been around a while, but the best thing in the world you can do, Mike, is wear these things out in 2 or 3 weeks or a month. Typically, they'll last a month. The best thing, and what that means is the horse is moving around a lot.
Right.
Lots of these cases, they go from a horse that cannot walk, and then they call you up and they're complaining because he's wearing his shoes out a month later. Oh my God, shut up.
Yeah, and you're like going, well, congratulations, it's working.
Exactly. Well, that's a good thing to happen. But I just got back from Tryon International Equestrian Center, and we were putting these like this on these jumping horses that weren't, they're a little bit off or whatever, and putting them on them, and the girls reported just immediate success, and they were going ahead and jumping in these things. And I'm going, oh, I don't know if I do that, but it's whatever. But we Sue Dyson just did a demonstration down there with their ethos system, where you look at the behavior of the horse and try to predict if is a horse sound or unsound. And whenever they start acting funny, twisting their tail and looking hard and all these, there's 20 different things she's identified. And they did a stud, or had a model down there, and he displayed all 20. Well, she had to go, but anyway, Tyler Raymer put on a set of these clogs right here, just like this. And guess what? And he stands them down in a ethylene vinyl acetate and measures what the horse wants. But he puts these shoes on there, and this particular horse wanted a 68 degree foot. Typically 50 something is the ideal, we think, but this horse wanted a 68. Well, he put these clogs on, and lo and behold, the horse went over and did a 68. It was 68.1, his measurement on both of them, and both of them come back exactly the same. And guess what? The horse improved in his ethos measurements. He was perfectly sound the next day and went around amazing everybody. And people started coming into the farrier shop saying, what did y'all do to that horse? Oh my God. How can you improve soundness that much in those things? But it's, and the system here, you want to think of it as, I like to say, milking the frog in the digital cushion. The biohydraulics of the foot are similar to milking a cow, if you will. Well, you can't milk a cow by pulling on the end of her teat like this. It just doesn't work properly. And you can't milk one just squeezing her like this. Anybody's ever tried to milk a cow, no, you can't get anything out. But when you learn, like I did when I was 4 or 5 years old, you start at the top and you squeeze as you go down. And that's heel landing. And that's why it's so important to heel, not necessarily land, but to load. A lot of horses don't land on their heel like we think they do. They land on their lateral toe, lots of them, especially
Right.
the front feet, but they load their heel. And it's important you load the heel, and it's important that you get a good trim on it. You can put these clogs on a horse and you won't get very good results, but when you put them on with a good trim, Mike,
Right.
you know the value of a good trim.
Yeah. If you have,
Nothing works like it's supposed to do with CPR to a foot. We like to think that the foot has a heart in it, and we want to do CPR. Well, if you got great big old long heels, that's like doing CPR with a coat and 2 vests on.
right.
And if you do CPR on the bed, that's too soft, and you're pushing the mechanical motion of your hand is not converting into hydraulics of the foot. And that's what you want to do, is you want to hydraulically push the fluid through the foot in the proper manner to get the foot to function normal. A foot that does not look normal cannot function normal.
Mike, you were going to say something?
You're correct. You are correct.
Okay.
I mean,
So,
you can
know,
make.
whenever I go some of these seminars,
Yeah, you can build beautiful shoes, and
I'm
if you don't have your
preaching
foot
to the
prep,
choir here, right?
right, you got that. If you don't have your foot prep right, you can make beautiful shoes. You can finish up outside beautiful, but the mechanics are not where they need to be.
All right, we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the future of the Steward Clog. And joining us here in the studio, along with myself and Mike Stine, is Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Micheal Steward. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. We'll be right back.
I forgot something. I forgot to put my phone in airplane mode. I just
Is that yours dinging all the time?
That was mine dinging.
Oh,
Sorry.
I thought it was his computer dinging.
Mine dinged once. I recognize the ding.
As long as it wasn't the dong. He flushed Niagara Falls there.
He has a Ferguson. You know about the almighty Ferguson.
Oh,
correct?
yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Some of the discussion we have been having between myself and Doc here is
We haven't started yet. We're not recording.
I understand that.
Oh, okay.
Is using it. Most time when you get a call on a laminitic horse, they're about dead. Coming in before the damage really starts,
Right.
and eliminate the damage. But people are like, oh my God, I want to see if it wait till to see if it gets bad. No, you don't. You really, really, really don't. But that's one discussion we were having back and forth a few times, and getting in before you have a nightmare.
Yeah. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Again, don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video as well. You can see all the visuals that we have here in the studio. The way you do that is go over to YouTube, search Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Make sure you like and subscribe over there. And also, if you have any questions for Mike Stine, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contact us. You can fill out that little form there. Make sure you put a return address. And if you'd like Equine Dynamics to perform a clinic out at your location, myself and Mike can come out there and we can do a podcast out there. I know Mike's got a couple things lined up here in the next couple of weeks or so. You're going down to where are you going in the next couple of weeks?
I'm going to In-Town, Brett Ingram's training facility. There's Richard Malgram is doing an in-hand clinic, long lining, and all that sort of deal with dressage horses. And I will be speaking at Dover Saddlery like the next week.
So is that October 28th and November 2nd?
Yes.
That's where we'll be out there. And joining us here in the studio, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Micheal Steward, co-creator, due to a horse, of the Steward Clog, also known as the wooden shoe. Micheal, how are you?
I'm good.
So you've told us how you got started with, by accident, happenstance, with the Steward Clog, and then you describe all the different uses of this shoe. Where do you see this shoe going in the future now? Do you see it because of materials and stuff, and steel and supplies and glues and all the other stuff? Do you see this shoe propelling itself into the future and becoming a little bit more pronounced than it is now? I know it's already a staple in many households and many barns and stalls and stuff. Do you see the shoe going out any further, or what are your plans with this shoe or the design?
Well, there's lots of duplicates being made around the world, if you will. The Visani shoe out of Italy, I think, is a pretty nice man-made shoe that is working, it's got the biomechanics working for it. Click and Clog, a hospital-type plate out of England, and then the Squish Clog out of England is coming out. That's a pretty nice deal. And I use, I don't think we talked about it, but I use these EVA straight up like this I call them the smart clogs, because you can just tape them on the horse's foot with Gorilla tape and walk the horse around, and he will lots of times tell you exactly how he wants to be shod. He'll do a 20-degree wedge or a 10-degree or a 3-degree, and he'll show you how he's landing on his lateral toe, which is really neat to show the owners. The veterinarian and the farrier may be able to see his lateral toe landing, but the owner don't see it. But when you put him in these things and then you pick the foot up and see the indention that it's made in there, if you can reuse these several times, but if you leave them on overnight, they'll plastically deform to the specific needs of that horse. But what I was getting at, the clog, the academians and people, they don't use the clog early on. Now, it's a good tool for preventative measures, and it's a great tool for acute, but a lot of people don't use it for acute, and I don't understand why. They're missing out on a lot of biomechanics there. And the biomechanics of the clog, for example, if you put a clog on a horse and cast his foot, we hold them on with cast. Well, it took me about 10 years of losing clogs because the screws rusted out. But the cast actually transfers the shear forces from the lamina, and they did a study a long time ago and did a reverse shoe, and it by 59% in that reverse shoe. So if you put a cast around this, lots of times you'll reduce the shear forces by 60 to 100%. So why wouldn't you take those shear forces away that are tearing the lamina loose from the bone and the wall from the get-go? Why do you want to wait until they're already sheared to do something?
Then you got a real problem.
It doesn't make any sense at all. But the academians say, well, you use the clogs on the chronic, wait a week or two and stuff like that. And me and Mike are just pulling our hair out saying that's so wrong, so wrong. Your roof's caving in on your house because of the snow load. You wait a week or two until it caves in, and then you go in and prop it up with 2x4s.
And maybe we should have got the snow load off, shouldn't we? We don't know what snow load is in this part of the country, but maybe we should have.
But the future of the shoe is going to be just like Mike's going to use it. He's going to use it every day for horses that are underrun heels and stuff like that. He's going to use it to heel a foot up in 2 months or 2 weeks. On stuff that took him 10 times longer working his butt off with the other biomechanics in the regular shoes. This shoe will provide the maximum amount of biomechanics to absolutely heal a foot up and rehab a foot in a way that's just unbelievable sometimes. Now, I tell people it'll do 2 months in this shoe will do more than the best barefoot rehab program in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have someone manufacturing these for you, or is this something that?
Yes, EDSS, or they didn't ever manufacture. The wooden shoe, they started off with it, but they were afraid people would duplicate it, so they made a hard plastic shoe. And I never really, that shoe's got specific purposes. But in fact, me and the guy named Dave Richards from South Carolina, we developed a market. I mean, I developed the wood EVA shoe, this one here, and we developed quite a market for it. And then EDSS went and bought him out, but they forgot about me. But anyway, one of the things that they do is, and Dave liked, was this leather rim around here. But in fact, to me, that's just a marketing ploy. You need to, most of the time, just rip that thing off and throw it in the trash, because you're peripherally loading when you use that. And the one thing you don't want to do is load the wall. You want to take the wall most of the time out of the picture. Basically, what the clog does in a nutshell is it puts the coffin bone on the ground and takes out all those other structures out of the picture. And he puts the coffin bone on the ground in an ergonomically efficient fashion that allows the rest of the foot to heal up. All those other pieces that were going this way or going that way or getting tore are actually taken out of the picture. And, you know, for example, on this particular model that EDSS makes, this EVA failed. It fails. You put this particular shoe with this EVA on a critically ill horse that wedges himself 20 degrees. Guess what? After about 2 weeks, this EVA will fail. It will absolutely go like that, and the horse will die because of failure of the shoe. And it's this EVA. It's made by the same people that make the EVA that I use. And you can buy this EVA out of Pennsylvania Show Ease people. Connie at Show Ease, she's the only one that sells this particular EVA in America. She's got an exclusive on it. And I had her name it Steward Light. So if you order it, you can make your own shoes if you want, or you can use this pad in your horse trailers or your stalls. It's really a neat little deal. It's 4x6, weighs about 37 pounds. And they last pretty good. They're really a good product for the horse to walk around on.
We're going to take a quick little break. And when we come back, we're going to wrap up with Dr. Micheal Steward, and we're going to get all his contact information and anything if you want to ask him some questions as well. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
I feel embarrassed with you professional radio voices there.
Well,
my little Okie accent.
No, you're fine. You fit in perfect around here.
You got to understand, I'm just sitting here. Travis has somebody else talk for me.
A little puppet.
Yeah. I'm just, pulling a string, you know.
I pull one string over here, his head goes like this. I pull the other string over here, it goes like this. No, I got Mike pretty trained over here. It took him about maybe 2 weeks to learn all the how to do everything here. And
he used to make me wear a shock collar, and he just hit the button.
Stop screwing around. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Make sure you follow him over on Facebook. Search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. You got a whole bunch of things going on up there. We've had so much information in this show. We haven't had a chance to go over some of the articles that you posted over on your Facebook page, but you guys out there can go see him and see all the different articles and stuff. Go to Equine Dynamics over on Facebook. Make sure you like and subscribe to him over there as well. And don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a YouTube video as well. You can see this in real time as we're talking to Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Dr. Micheal Steward, here in the studio with us. Hi, Mike. How are you? And over to my far hand side is Mike Stine. As always, I got too many mics. I got Mike. I got Mike here,
Mike there,
Mike there, Mike everywhere. And so, what did we learn today? Micheal Steward, Dr. Micheal Steward, co-creator of the Steward Clog, or also known as the wooden shoe. So what's the biggest takeaway you want our audience to know about your shoe? Where can they find you, or where can they find your products? And if they have any questions for you, do you answer questions from the mass media out there, or you're just your little homebody over there in Oklahoma?
Well, in fact, I've been traveling quite a bit. I'm a retired veterinarian, mixed animal practice veterinarian after 42 years, and I have time now. And I have Facebook if you want to get on Micheal Steward, Steward. I try to publish, things that people can learn off of, like Mike, and sometimes I get a little politically incorrect, so don't be too offended there. But anyway. You can contact me, anybody that wants to call me or Facebook Messenger me. That's a good way of doing it. But you can call me if you want, 405-620-2673, 405-620-2673. And I have time now. I can do things. I'm getting ready to go to Florida. I think to Wellington. Just got back from North Carolina with Charlotte area with the Tryon Equestrian Center. That was quite a trip.
We broadcast out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and I am from Orlando, Florida. So I think I've seen both sides of where you're going there.
Well, good. But anyway, the shoe's going to take off in popularity when people realize what it can do for a foot. It'll heal lots of feet in and grow a foot faster than anything you can do. And we can also, with a little modification using the leather EVA, make a foot shoe that'll train a racehorse in training, and it'll grow cup better than anything I've ever seen. It'll develop a horse's cup.
Right. You were talking about James using them down in Florida on
Yep.
some of those horses that were show horses.
Yep. He uses them a lot, and he calls it a healing vacation. If he can put them in for 2 weeks, he will. A month, of course, would be better, and 2 months. But a lot of these just sore-footed, navicular type horses, and I've put them on tripartite navicular horses that would only get up and eat and then lay back down, and absolutely in 2 or 3 months be working in a feedlot 2 days a week. So I can show you PowerPoint presentations of these kind of cases, and it's, people that finally figure out, and you've got to do your trim right. I just got back from England. Dr. Mark Caldwell, he's a pretty good hand over there, and I went over there and I tweaked his trim just a little bit on one case, and absolutely made a huge difference. And this is something that Tyler Raymer and Dr. Caldwell both taught me, and I'm teaching Mike or whoever, which he already knows it, but I'm telling you, the minor little changes in a foot make major differences, more so than the major changes.
Yeah.
You can make a major change to a foot, and then Tyler's put it on his Workman Blackman, and it doesn't change much, but he makes a minor critical right balance. It's all about the balance. And when you balance that foot out perfectly, oh my God, the changes are just horrendous in soundness and the way the horse goes. And for example, he put a shoe on the one that I think Sue Dyson demonstrated, and in his Workman program, the foot stride length increased 12 inches. 12 inches. That's substantial, Mike. That's a long ways.
It's a lot. That's serious. That's the difference between winning and losing. Big difference between winning and losing, right?
Well, we're all winning here because we've had you join us on the show, and we appreciate it. We appreciate you, Dr. Micheal Steward. And Mike, is there anything that you would like to add? You've been quiet over there. You've been soaking all this in. I can see it in your face.
There's a lot to soak in today.
He's going to have me come out. He's going to have me come out and ride with him for a couple of days.
Well, that'll be good. That'll be good. And maybe we can get you here in the studio. We've got a nice big old fluffy chair over there for you. We'll have you in here.
Your own microphone?
Own microphone, your own headset, and you can be a professional broadcaster just like us here at Equine Dynamics. All right, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us and hanging out with us. We'd like to thank Dr. Micheal Steward for joining us. Thank you very much. On behalf of Mike Stine over there,
have a good day. Enjoy your horses.
My name is Travis, saying see you next week.
Good night, Ned. Hi, Dusty. Good night.
Hasta luego.
Good night, Ned.
All right, we're clear. There you go. Well, that's how we do it there, Mr. Stewart.
Gonna have to edit that.
Yeah, I'll do some editing. Yeah, I mean, that's no problem. I do that all the time. That's what I'm here for.
He edits all my screw ups out, so you know.
Well, no, I mean his information was really good. There was a couple times where the camera kind of froze, and I have to chop that up. But other than
right.
that, well, we really do appreciate Michael for joining us. What time is it there, by the way? How many hours behind are you? 2 hours?
We're an hour ahead.
Hour ahead?
Yeah, it's earlier here than there.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Behind, ahead. I forget how this works. All right, so there you go. Anything
makes a difference in bed, you know.
I'm sure it does. Mm-hmm. Mike, is there anything you want to say to Mike before we
thank
turn him loose?
Sir. I hope